Alright, what's up everybody? Oh no, I'm sorry if I just killed everybody's ears here. Um, I am streaming from the print farm today, so I'm on a different PC. Let me see if that helps. I'll turn the microphone boost off. How's the audio quality on this headset? Bueller? I should probably put some audio filters on here, like a noise suppressor here. That should probably do it. Alright. So, we do not have the bot today because I'm streaming on the print farm computer. I'm actually out here in our print farm, which is why my video quality and audio quality are not the best. This is just a basic camera here. I'm going to see if I can pump the volume up a little bit. You said it's low. I know this headset had a decent microphone on it. Oh no, I have an intruder. There's an intruder behind me. Okay, this is the best we're gonna get for right now. The autofocus is going crazy. Yeah, let me see if I can tell this camera to stop hunting. Let's see. I remember having to do this with the Logitech, so let's see. Oh, nope, that's out of focus. I think that's about as good as we're gonna get. Right in here. How's that? All right. So the autofocus should not be hunting anymore. So anyways, yeah. Why is this mic running so hot? I see my meter going red. Oh, man. God, I hate doing this stuff on the fly. We'll drop it down to a little bit. I hit it at 100. All right. So anyways, warmer white balance. Yeah, the white balance on this camera is not great. So I used like a $300 something Sony camera setup in the house, and this is just some cheap webcam. Let me see if I can change the color balance here. Brightness, where's the gain? We don't want the gain. Backlight comp. Oh, there we go. Look at that. That's so much better. Let me push the gamma up just a little bit. Oh, look at that. All right, that's not too shabby. I got no fill light or anything here, but that'll work. So anyways, this is our Ask Tim stream. We do these every Wednesdays at 4 p.m. And you guys ask me questions. Now, normally we have a bot where you put exclamation point Q in front of the question, and then I'll answer your question. If you guys could still do that, that'd be great because I have the chat up and I'm going to be pulling questions from the chat. We do have some updates here. We are working on updating the Unified 2 firmware to Marlin 2.1.2. If you guys noticed, that came out officially, and that has the new input shaping. So we are already internally working on testing it and getting things documented on how to actually use the input shaping that's available in Marlin. If you guys are not familiar with what input shaping is, that basically the TLDR is you run some test prints on the printer, you set some variables or values, and then you can print faster with better print quality. So it's the same thing that all the Clipper guys go crazy, and excited for. It's now in Marlin. Meaning you could do it on your printer's board. So those of you guys that have faster processors, like if you got our EasyBoard V1 or V2, or some of the Creality boards or the Big Tree Tech boards that have the 32-bit processors with the processing power and the space on them. I'm not sure how much space it takes up because we haven't gotten to the part where we're compiling Unified. Yeah, it should be able to run on a lot of these 32-bit boards. I doubt it's going to run on 8-bit boards just because of the speed of those. Those printers are pretty much already maxed out. So at launch, until we can get some more testing on the 8-bit processor to see if it's even feasible or usable, we'll just focus on adding it onto the 32-bit builds, and that'll be something you can turn on. It'll be an optional setting that you can turn on if your board supports it, if you have space, because there's different things. For example, like we have some of these boards from Creality or from Big Tree Tech where they only have a 256K memory size. that might start running into issues if you start having, like, your auto bed leveling enabled and all these other features, and then you're also trying to run the input shaping. It might be too large, but we'll find out. I haven't actually done any test compiles with it. We're getting our code on the back end updated to the new one, so then we can start porting it over. So once we update our code base from 2.093 to 2.12, that will then bring those new features that are coming into 2.12, as well as any bug fixes that have come out since then. So I think we'll have one more release of the current build to add on some of the Ender 3 Neo machines. Right now, you can set up our firmware for the Ender 3 Neos with some minor modifications, but we did do some testing in our Discord server and had people with the Ender 3 V2 Neo and the Ender 3 Max Neo that both tested the firmware and reported back that things are working. So I think that'll be the last release on the old code base, and after that I'm going to focus all the efforts in terms of firmware development on just getting 2.12 update out the door, and we do test that internally. I was thinking about having a special channel in our Discord server so we can handpick some people to help us test. So if you are interested in testing, just send us a general contact on our website form and let us know. And what I'm expecting is if you're willing to test the firmware, I want to be able to ping you guys in this Discord channel and get feedback and get it fairly quickly. The biggest issue we've had with people offering to test is they will offer it, and I appreciate that, but then they'll disappear on us, and it ends up just being quicker for us to test everything on our own, which does take a lot of time, but has historically been quicker than try to rely on community members to help us test. So if you're somebody that has some free time, and is willing to use Discord, go ahead and send us a message. Say, hey, you can just select the sales for the department and just say, hey, I am interested in becoming a tester to help out with to help out with firmware testing, because we're going to have a lot of builds to test, boards, printer builds, that kind of stuff. But yeah, we do flash them on our machines here as well, so all my machines will be running the new test builds, but it's always good to have more people testing things to see if things are working correctly versus just on my few machines. So anyways, all right, let's get into it. I do have so you guys need to post questions in here so I can answer them. Otherwise, we don't have a stream. I do want to give an update. So I did end up getting a refund from Simplified 3D, and we went back to version 4. Some other people were leaving comments saying that, oh, we're not using the software correctly, and processes should only be used for one printer, except that's not the case. You're only using the processes that you have selected, and even that doesn't work. Before I got the refund, I did play around and test, and the same issues persisted. Whether I started with a brand new factory file with different printer profiles, it just is not slicing correctly. It's not resizing the bed preview correctly, even if I only have one printer in the factory file. So yeah, I'm going to be moving on. I did send out our maker newsletter for this week, and I did give a shout out to Uncle Jesse, who did a video actually right before the Simplified 3D V5 release about Lychee Slicer. And if you guys are familiar with resin printers, you'll know Lychee Slicer is a resin printer slicer, and they have right now a beta test. It's an open beta. It's free for you to go ahead and try their FDM one. So I did install that because I was watching his video, and it looked really, really well thought out. Obviously, there are some bugs because it's a beta, but there's less bugs than Simplified 3D in their official V5 release. So there's that. But the interface, if you're used to V5 or used to Simplified 3D, it looks very similar to it. It's a little more modern, but I do have that installed on my computer. I'm going to play with it. So yeah, so check that out. So if you guys are on our newsletter that went out today, there's a bunch of deals in there. We do have right now our Easy Bulbs on sale. So we have our Easy Bulbs and Easy Plug. Those are two like smart home and automation type products that run Tasmota. We will continue manufacturing the Easy Plugs, but the Easy Bulbs have just been a slow seller. So we do have those on clearance. So if you guys are wanting to get open source light bulbs, we have RGB, they're RGBW, so red, green, blue, and white channels, and they're 9 watts output, or 9 watts input, I should say. They're very bright. Get those, because once those are gone, that's it. We will not be doing another production run of those. Just not a huge market for those in our customer space at this time. So I already grabbed a couple for myself, so I have some spares or ones to just install them in more locations in the um, in my house and stuff. So yeah, the beta testing, we were not paying people to help us beta test the firmware because the majority of the firmware is free. We put it out for free to the community. There's a few that we do charge for because they're aftermarket boards, and we include those with um, the board if you purchase a Creality 427 board. So, but yeah. All right, let's see if we have any questions in here. Um, let's see. Any updates on the new unified build? Yeah, I just covered that, so I guess that just worked. Emerson got a new 1,000-gallon poo tank and a drain field. Awesome. Yeah, that's having working plumbing is great. So that had to be one hell of a job. Let's see here. I'm looking to see if there's any other questions. You guys didn't answer questions. I think everybody's just busy with the holidays. Any smooth PEI for the Soul Vault? We do have those on order. We actually just paid that supplier a couple weeks ago, so I'm assuming we should have those in a couple weeks. Usually it takes us about a month from the time we pay to the time they land here. So those, because they're heavy, we do ship those on a one of those, people call them Connex containers, but like, the big metal containers. So they do come over the slow boat, quite literally. Lossing said, thoughts on PEO/PEI carbon fiber print services? I haven't heard of those. I think I saw a picture of one that somebody sent me. I think it might have been you. I think it was one of the Mercury One services. I'm interested, but like, in order for those to be used, they have to have some sort of metal. So I'm assuming it's a carbon fiber coating, or like a layer that's applied to the top sheet, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, I haven't messed with them. Has anybody in chat messed with those? The carbon fiber print surfaces? I mean, I imagine they look cool, but like, do they hold the print? And how long are they going to hold up? That's the other thing, too. So, looks like Jerry got his refund for Simplify 3D as well. 3D Experiment says, thoughts on the Bamboo Lab and the printable side panels. Will that work? Yeah, I saw that. So I think that's, what is that, the PMP, their smaller printer. I mean, printable side panels will work. I feel like that's a big print to do. So I don't know. It's cool you can customize those. I'm still on the fence about Bamboo Lab. I'm kind of waiting and seeing how they survive, especially once they start dealing with technical support, because that's one of the things is they're touting. The thing is they're selling the printers at a decent price, so unless they have somehow really good margins, and they're hiring people like tech support people that know what they're doing, are not cheap. So like, that's a huge cost. As somebody who employs multiple people just for technical support, I can tell you it's a large cost. So I'll be curious to see if that's a sustainable business model for them in the long term. Yeah. And I've got some hot cocoa in here. All right. Smallwood's asking, have I played with input shaping? I have not yet. The other guys are working on that right now. I'm working on getting our code updated. Mears says, I've got a Monoprice Mini, and as of a couple of days ago, the hot end won't go above 215. Do you think a PID tune will cure the problem, or should I be thinking the thermistor or hot end heater? So if it completely cuts off at 215, meaning it stays exactly there, I would probably suspect a thermistor. If that was my printer, I would probably just change the thermistor and the heater out, just to be on the safe side, to make sure if either one of those is failing. Because if the heater cartridge is just worn out, and Monoprice Mini, that's an older machine, so it's very possible that the heater cartridge wears out. Like all these items, especially like the heater cartridges, they will eventually go out. Especially the heater cartridges, those are getting really, really hot, and it's basically just wire coiled up, resistance wire coiled up inside that metal tube with some I think it's like ceramic fill to keep it from touching the edges, and eventually they will wear out. It's just, it's going to heat up and cool down, heat up and cool down. It's got a very hard life. So I would probably, the first thing I'd probably do is change out the heater and see if that's the case. It would probably be It would probably be that. And Emerson makes another good point here. If it's stopping 215, then thermal shutdown kicks in. It could also be a power supply taking a dump, especially if it's cheap, shitty PSU. Yeah, that's another thing too. Check your voltage output on your power supply. That's a really good tip, because if your power supply is going out, let's say it's heating up, and all of a sudden the voltage starts dropping off, that's going to limit how much you can heat. Or maybe it's just running at a lower voltage to begin with, and that's the cause of the problem. So, let's say you have a 12, I don't know if that's a 12 or 24 volt power supply. Let's say it's 24 volt. And let's say the power supply is going out, it's only putting out like 18 volts. That's going to limit the maximum temperature that heater cartridge is going to be able to reach, because it's now pulling less wattage. Heater cartridges are just these little resistive elements, and basically they get as hot as they can when the voltage is applied. So if you have a lower voltage, then it's going to limit how many watts it's actually pulling in terms of power. And like I said, those are items that wear out. So, yeah, I would start with check the power supply. If your voltages are good, I would heat it up then, and have my multimeter on it and see if the power supply is dropping off at all. If it's not dropping off, I'd probably replace the heater cartridge. If that also doesn't fix it, then I'd probably replace the thermistor. The other thing too that just popped in my head is, what are your temps reading at room temperature? Meaning it's been sitting there, it's not been heated up, it's cooled down back to room temperature. Is that displaying the correct temperature? Because the other thing is, if that hot end has an issue, or like you were cleaning it and like accidentally sent some power into the thermistor input, that could also cause an incorrect reading on the actual processor's I/O pin that is on that control board. Meaning, a lot of times we see people where they take the wire brushes and they're not careful, and they hit the thermistor legs and the heater legs, and while those heater legs typically always have a positive 12 or 24 volts power going to them, because the Mosfets are switching the negative leg, that'll send that power into the thermistor, which then can fry the then that can fry the I/O pin that is actually being used to read the temperature. Meaning, it'll not work at all, where it'll just have an error reading, or it will make the readings be off, or incorrect. So that's the other thing. So if at room temperature, and it's been sitting there for an hour, without the hot end heat, and it's still reading like 50 degrees Celsius, and the block's not at 50 degrees Celsius, then that's an indication that it could be a control board issue. So this is just kind of going through my head of what I would do if that printer was sitting in front of me. So definitely start with the power supply, and that's assuming your temperatures are reading correctly at room temperature. If they are, check the power supply. If the power supply is not outputting what it should be, then that's a pretty clear-cut case of the power supply needs to be replaced. If the power supply is fine, then I would move to the heater, and then if replacing the heater doesn't work, I would then move to the thermistor. So hopefully that works or helps. So again, you guys need to ask questions in the chat. And then I will answer them. And right now we do not have the bot, so I'm just manually going through and reading the chat. So the next one is from Emerson. He says, what type of surface, bed temp, and nozzle temp do you recommend for my new ABS/CF filament? Also, what speeds? Does it like slow and steady, or can I print fast like normal ABS? So in general, carbon fiber filaments, you should definitely not try to go super crazy fast. But I typically ran it like the test print on the picture. We ran that at 80 millimeters a second, and then a 245 nozzle temp and 100C bed temp. So I used my same exact ABS profile that I use for every other ABS, and it printed great. So the other thing is, with fill filaments like that, if you're getting a lot of stringing, and this goes for any brand, not just ours, it wouldn't hurt to dry out the filament. We do have a support article on our website. If you just type in filament handling in the help center, which is support.th3dstudio.com, you'll get a page that has a lot of useful information, including links to some food dehydrators that can be used as filament dryers. You don't need to buy these fancy overpriced food dehydrators that have a filament dry logo slapped on them or whatever it is. I actually use one from Cosori, COSORI, I think it is, but it's linked on that page, and it was about $100. And the nice thing is, it's got a timer, it's got really good temperature regulation, and you can fit like 6 spools of filament in the thing without any modifications. So if you decide to not use it as a filament dryer anymore, you could easily use it as a food dehydrator again, because it has removable trays, which is one of the things I liked about it. Now you can get some of the cheaper ones you know, like the $20, $30 ones where they have the stackable trays. And then I've done this before where you just snip all the trays out and basically make it one big hollow, you know, plastic enclosure, and then you can put a couple rolls of filament in there. So yeah, but nothing special I found with printing the ABS CF that we have. 245 nozzle temp is usually what I run for most ABSs, regardless of brand, and then bed temp is always at 100, 110 if my room is a little bit cooler than normal. So like we're in the winter months here in Indiana. Here we're in Northwest Indiana, so things are getting colder, and you know obviously like we run the heaters. I think I have my office set at like 64 because gas is expensive. So I'll usually run the beds at like 110. Same thing we do in the print farm, is we'll run the beds at like 110 just to combat the drop in ambient temperature. So even though they're enclosures, you can still get some temperature differences which create warping. So I think Emerson, you kind of have yours in a shop, but I think you might be pretty toasty because you have a wood stove out there, if memory serves correct. So, um, but in terms of the speed, I don't print anything past like 100 typically, and the filament printed fine at like 80. You can try printing faster, but in general, I found anything with like fills in it typically does not like to be printed super fast, because you want to want it to have time to flow out properly and you know adhere. And you know, with any fill type of filament, you could have variations in the actual fill, whether it's you know thicker or thinner. So, and in general, fill type of filaments, if you're getting clogs with a point 0.4 nozzle, go up to like a 0.5 or a 0.6, just because anything with fill in it, obviously it has those materials, and if that material is larger than 0.4, you could get clogs or under extrusion if it's you know needing some extra force to push out the nozzle. So, but I print all our stuff on 0.4s. It printed great. But in general, it's just good guidance for filament with fills in it, whether it's wood fill or even glow in the dark, um, you know, or carbon fiber, that kind of stuff. So, all right, let me take a break here, but I feel like I'm talking really fast today. So now we have some hot cocoa in here. Okay. All right. The next one's from All Star Vinyl in Texas. He says, "Can you recommend a good direct drive and all metal hot end for the Solo SV03 that doesn't need a ton of mods to make them work?" So you're gonna need to modify. There's no way around that. And I don't know what a ton of mods is in your opinion, but we do have our multi-mount system where, and that printer will need an adapter plate, which we do have. And you basically unbolt the whole stock hot end. You can put on our all metal hot end, and we also have a direct drive adapter for that to use our Tough Extruder V2 on there. It's a really good combo, and then you get the benefit of being able to use all the upgraded cooling stuff. So we've got you know single and dual 5015 setups, sensor mounts for BL Touch and for easy ABLs, all sorts of stuff. That's what I would do. I've been using our multi-mount system on any systems I want to go direct drive because it just works. And the nice thing is, and what I like is, especially when I have multiple different printers, if I have the same hot end setup on all the printers, I can expect the same kind of print quality off of all printers, even though they're slightly different models, if that makes sense. So, Neograph, can you recommend a flow rate for the spaghetti green glitter PLA? I couldn't get a good reading because of the glitter. I don't know what you mean by reading, but in terms of flow rate in general with PLAs, I usually use like so in Simplified 3D, it's like a 1 is 100%, 0.9. Typically for PLAs, I use like a 0.9 to 0.92, and that's what I printed that stuff. Like so, all the thing with the filaments we came out with, I was most impressed about with the manufacturer is all of the filaments just printed as I would expect them to print, meaning I'm not having to mess with temperatures. I'm not having to mess with any of my profiles that I print with. Most of my profiles are tuned and have been tuned with, I should say, the coax PLAs. And aside from dropping the nozzle temp down from 230 like 220, everything printed as I would expect it. So I don't know what you mean by getting a reading off of the flow rate, but typically on most PLAs, I'll run a 90 to 92% flow rate. So, and then ABS, I'll usually run like a 1.0 to 1.05, so 100 to 105% flow rate. And then PETG depends on the brand, but I found some are good at 1, others might need like a 1.1 flow rate, so you know 100 to 110% flow rate. So, all right. 3D Experiment says, Is it possible to dedicate a 24-volt power supply just to heating the bed and use another for the rest of the printer? I don't want to mess with AC beds. Yes, it is. And in general, it's recommended if you're using two separate power supplies to tie their ground lines together. Um, that's typically what I do. Like I have some projects where they have like a little wall worked powered ESP, and then I have a meanwhile to power the LEDs they're driving, and I'll tie their ground lines together. Not the ground like earth ground, but I say ground, I mean negative, like the negative lines. Um, so just because it cuts down on any weird interference. So yeah, you could easily do that. I would definitely recommend using a MOSFET to push the power through. That would be the easiest way, because when you add a MOSFET, now you got a separate power input just for your bed, so you could have the power input go right to the separate power supply just for the actual heated bed. And most printers you can get away with, if you're just running the fans and the motors and the hot end, basically everything but the bed, you can get away with a 50 to 100 watt power supply, and that'll be more than enough. So but I think we carry MOSFETs. I don't know if we have any in stock. I know we just got inventory in yesterday, so there's going to be a lot of stuff that's coming back into stock. And I'm checking here, and we do have. I know we were working on updating our MOSFETs, because the version that we've been using, our V2, we can't get anymore. The manufacturer stopped making them. We actually found another one that's actually really nice, that has a smaller MOSFET physically, but it's actually a lot better brand and a lot better handling. But we're not pushing these anywhere past 30 amps. That's what they're rated at. But yeah, those are out of stock right now. I gotta check. I'll check inventory after we're done. But something like our MOSFET here, I'll post in chat. I don't have screen sharing set up. Oh yeah, Danielle heard me talking. Yeah, so we do have them. I just gotta update the product photos before we stock them. But these are the new MOSFETs, so I'll have to design some new cases, but they still have the screw terminals. The one thing I like about these new version is they don't have a jumper to control whether they go on a 12 or 24 volt printer. It's all just automatic. And it's a nice design. It's a little bit smaller than the current one. It's just simpler. So you've got your screw terminals here for your power input and your power output, and then this goes to the control. So this would go to your printer's control board. And if you notice, it's actually a bottom mounted FET. So this actually has a little standoff. So we'll have 3D printed adapters, which I'll get designed up. But these will be replacing our V2s, which have been out of stock. They've been out of stock because the manufacturer we're using to make those for us can no longer get the MOSFET chips. So, but I do like these. They're smaller, they handle just as much current, and they have the screw terminal. So a lot of the other MOSFETs you'll find, they have screw terminals, but they're the kind that you have to put a crimp end connector on. These you can just put wire into, which is what I'm a fan of. So if you add yourself to the wish list to the current listing, it will notify you, because we're going to just edit that existing product page. All right. Where are we at here? Yeah, and I don't blame you for not wanting to use AC beds. I will do them if a customer requires them, but I'm not a fan of them, because the AC beds, especially if you're running like battery backups, which I do, an AC bed loads down a battery backup really, really hard. So if I build like a printer with an AC bed, I will have a separate plug actually for the AC bed. So if somebody wants to run on a power or a battery backup, they can have the AC bed go right into the wall, bypassing the battery backup, or put it on the surge only side, and then have the main printer on the battery backup side, because some AC beds I've seen pull up to 1500 watts, which is insane. So, all right. Let's see where we're at here. Man, this brings me back having to scroll through chat. Coffee is asking, why can't I get any change filament cure scripts to work at Ender 5 Pro? I even tried the T3D firmware, just went past the layer and carried on. So what is it? What's the G code command? I haven't messed with the plugin, but it's just inserting a G code command. I think it's M600. Yeah, M600. So if you just send an M600 to your printer, as soon as it processes that, it should initiate a filament change. If you're using our firmware, M600 works. The stock firmware, I don't think works. So, But yeah, I don't use Cura at all. I'm currently still on the old version 4 Simplify 3D. I just could never get into Cura. The workflow in it just was really, really clunky, and I was tired of them breaking the software. So I'm playing with Super Slicer right now, and also checking out Lychee Slicer. Um, but yeah, the stock firmware I don't believe responds to the M600 command. Ours definitely does. That's enabled by default on all of our builds. So um, all right. I'm going to see if there's any other questions here. If there's no more questions, I will wrap this up early. 3D Experiments says, does T3D firmware even support the touchscreen? I don't know what printer you're talking about. What printer are you talking about? I'm scrolling up. 3D Experiments, 3D Experiments. Ba, 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 ba. What touchscreen are you talking about here? Yeah, that's the other thing too about the filament change not working. I would open up your G-code file in like Notepad++ and do a search for M600. If their M600 isn't even in there, it's probably an issue with the Cura plugin, which wouldn't surprise me because Cura is very buggy sometimes. Um, yeah, because if it's not getting put in there, it's really easy to verify that. 3D Experience, what are you talking about? Ender5 Pro does not have a touchscreen. Ender5 Pro is just a 128/64 screen. So, all right. Let's see where we're at. Do do do. All right. RCT3 fan says, "What do I do when the calorie Z offset works correctly in the Kindle of the bed, but is way too low when trying to set the bed level during the test print?" I have no idea what that question means. You're gonna have to try retyping it out, because I don't know what you mean. If your Z offset's too low, um, and you only did the first step of setting your initial Z offset, then you need to do the second step, which is fine tuning it. Because that first one where you set your initial offset is just to get you close, and it could be too high or too low. You should dial it in on the skirt of a print, and that will get you your exact offset. Um, Thomas is asking, with the tough extruder, are you talking about the V1 or V2? But I guess either one. Your filament gets stuck in the plastic guide piece inside the box. I have not. Um, the only way I could see that get stuck is if the filament is out of spec and it's too big, and so it bound up in there, or if your extruder is in an area that's getting very hot, and basically the filament's getting soft and then basically getting pushed into the extruder where it's binding up. But if something's physically stuck like that, it's probably to do with the filament diameter being off, or your extruder's in a location where it's getting very warm, and warm enough to deform the filament as it's pushing it. So now it looks like we had some porn spammers in here. Seriously, these porn spammers, is anybody that stupid to fall and go to these stupid sites? Like, why do they do it? I don't know a single person that is dumb enough to go on these sites. I have no idea. Um, yeah. Let's see. All right, Truggy. Any Ender 2 Pro Multimount, anything special to be concerned with? Have a Creality Revo, and can just purchase the body to fit the multi-mount. Yeah, so I mean, there's nothing special. Ender 2 Pro, you just do need the adapter piece, which they're available on our site right now. It's a little adapter that puts it onto there. But basically, once the adapter's on, you follow the directions. The whole point of our multi-mount system was at the very most, you just need an adapter plate if your printer is one that is not directly supported by the built-in mounting pattern on the multi-mount, and that's what the adapter plates are for. Those are on our site for a couple bucks. You can add them on the multi-mount page. If you don't want to have us print it, we do all the multi-mount prints in ABS, so they do last long and they'll work in an enclosure, meaning you don't have to worry about them getting soft. But we do provide the STLs for all the mounts when you purchase the multi-mount. Um, As for the Creality Revo, yeah, you would need to purchase the Revo 6 upper part. So, and then you can reuse all your nozzles and the heater and everything because those are all the same. So the multi-mount, that is for groove mount hot end. So like the slice hot end, that has like its own little bolt hole pattern, so you would get the groove mount adapter. That's what I did when I put on my 5 Plus. So any hot end that's a groove mount hot end will fit into those multi-mounts that we sell. So, all right. Let's see here. Yeah, chat did jump on me. All right. Right as I read Nemo Griff saying chat jumped. Have I messed around with the NG extruder? Randy's asking. I have not. I've seen it in person, and I do know Tripod, aka John from Tripod's Garage here on YouTube. He has a Micro Swiss NG, and he really likes it. I also saw it in person, and it looks really nice. Personally, like aesthetically, it looks weird to me, but I can't argue because everybody that has messed with it. So John and one of my other friends, I can't remember. I think it was my buddy Jesus. I can't remember which one it was, but someone else has it and they said it worked great. So I know John really likes it. John from Tripod's Garage. So did I earn my BQ Huracan? No, because BQ is Big Tree Tech and I'm not giving them my money. If I wanted to throw money away, I'd buy a Troxy. Um, Let's see. Dury's asking, will you do a video for Super Slicer, like tutorial, hidden features, explanations? Probably, but I am very new to it, so I'm not qualified to do a video on it just yet. I'm still fumbling through and learning it. Um, let's see here. Let's see if there's any other questions here. Okay, 3 experience. Is there a guide or article on how many Marlin features a certain MCO support? No, there is not. Basically, what you're going to have to do, and this is what we do as part of our testing, is we turn features on, and basically we want to make sure that when people turn everything on that would typically be used together, that it's going to fit into the build size. So if you are running your own version of Marlin, like if you're going and downloading Marlin directly from their site, setting it from scratch, turn on all the features you want to use for your board, get it all set up, and do a compile, and it will tell you if you're too big on the memory size. So typically we want to be around 90% or less max usage on a processor's memory. So, and it will tell you right at the end of the compile if it's too big, it'll fail. But you also don't want to pack, turn a bunch of features on where your RAM is maxed out, your program memory is maxed out, because then you're going to get instability. So, that's all stuff that we test when we're putting together our unified firmware, which is built on top of Marlin, is making sure we're not giving users tons of options that they could turn everything on, and then their printer runs like crap. So like we do stability testing in that regard to make sure we're not putting out firmware that, yeah, it's got a ton of features, but it runs like crap because, it's just maxing out the processor. So, that's one of the reasons, like when we did our EasyBoard V1, even going back to that one, we're on our V2 right now. That one had the V1 had half a megabyte of memory, and 120 megahertz ARM processor. So very fast processor. I think it was either 128K or 192K RAM, which was high. It was higher than, it's actually still higher than most of the boards that are on the market now in terms of speed and memory size. And our V2 is even faster than that with more memory. So our V2 is a 168 megahertz ARM processor with 1 whole megabyte of flash and 192K of RAM. So, boards like that, the higher end boards, whereas like the Creality boards, which are 256K of memory and like I think it's either 64 or 128K RAM, and a 6 or 72 megahertz processor, those are not going to be able to do as much as our boards, but you get what you pay for. So, me, if I'm going to do something, I like to go overkill, which is why our boards have really, really overkill processors on them, because we're not fully utilizing them even now. But now there's more stuff coming out in the firmware. We're actually going to be able to take advantage of that. And, people that bought our boards, even if it's on the older ones, you're going to be able to do a lot more. So, not outdating things or making them obsolete as new software things come out. So, it's something that's important to me as a consumer, so I try to design our products in the same mentality of, hey, yeah, you might have had this board for 2 or 3 years, but it was overkill from the get-go. All right. Where are we at? Chat jumped again. Do I have a BMG style extruder mount STL for the multi-mount? Yes, we do. If you check the pages, we sell them and they're included. So we have BMG ones. I think we have the there's the tiny ones that we just added. We added a couple. The BMG one is what our Tough Extruder V2 uses. It's made for the Tough Extruder V2 and the BMG one. So it's all in there. Read the product page, man. Robert's asking, he's got an Easy ABL on his Ender 3 Max. How do I configure the printer config file for Easy ABL on the Creality Sonic Pad? We don't do anything with the Sonic Pad. The Sonic Pad is actually a product you should not be buying because it is infringing on multiple license agreements, and we do not do any support for that. So if you want to, you can use Easy ABL with Clipper, which the Sonic Pad is a Clipper product. Like meaning it runs Clipper. You're gonna have to lean on the Clipper community for help with that. We have general information, but we don't do support on it. So you can try contacting Creality, but they're probably not going to get back to you. They do not support their products. So you're going to have to read through the Clipper documentation because that's what the Sonic Pad runs is Clipper. So, but the Easy ABLs work with all sorts of firmware. They just act as a normally open end stop switch. So meaning they'll work with Marlin, RepRef firmware, which is what Duets run. They'll run with what's the other one that nobody uses anymore? It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh my god. What was the one the 32-bit one that came out? Why am I playing it? Smoothie Wear. Yeah, it's just a piece of hardware, so you gotta know how to set it up. But we don't do anything with the Clipper stuff just because Clipper is insanely complicated. So, but yeah, people use our Easy ABLs with Clipper all the time, and that's what the Sonic Pads run is Clipper. So, let's see. Federer's asking, any plan to restock an Ender 5 Plus LCD upgrades, or can the Ender 3/5 stock Creality screens work on a 5 Plus board with an easy board? I don't know what you mean by that. We are not discontinuing those if things are out of stock. If things are out of stock, hang on one second. If things are out of stock, we are restocking them. We do not have any plans to discontinue those. I'm assuming those screens are probably out of stock because we're waiting on inventory to come in. I'm going to check that really quick right now. Let me see here. I'm pulling up our LCD kit. Is it showing out of stock? Yeah, so we're waiting on the 128/64 screens. Hang on, let me holler at Danielle. Yeah, we will be restocking those, so just add yourself to the wish list. I could also open up back orders. We allowed back orders on, what did we allow? Oh, the Easy ABLs, because we do have an ETA on those, and those are on the way. I just checked our tracking. So, yeah, you cannot use the Creality ones with that kit. That LCD kit does not work with it. So, what's that? Oh, they just got delivered. Okay, literally, we just got them, like, just now. Okay. So, there's that. So yeah, they should be stocked relatively soon. Danielle just held up a bag. She's like, they just got delivered. Let's see. 3D Experience. I can't find the T3D XTL for the external stand for the Meanwhile power supply. Is it still available? It should be in our. It should be on our support center or help center, I should say. I believe it is. That should still be up there, unless it didn't get moved over. T3D Meanwhile PSU cover. Let me see. I know we sell the print on our site. Maybe the cover didn't get moved over. Is it in our STL section? Let me see. It's not. I'll note that down because I think that probably didn't get moved over when we transferred help centers. We just checked the help center directly because it wasn't coming up when I did a Google search here. Let's see. Meanwhile cover, let's see. Might be on the Dual Z kit. No, that's a bracket. Yeah, so there's the bracket if you're doing our dual Z kit upgrade, but there is not, that cover's not on the site. So it used to be, but it got moved. I'll put it up there in our digital download section sale thing. So, but we do sell that part pre-printed for like $5 or $6. All right. DZD3 is asking about why is printers crashing when attempting to create a 255 15 by 15 UBL mesh. You're probably running out of memory. You said it's SVL3 customized with stock Marlin. If that's the stock board, that's an 8-bit board. If memory serves correct, you're not gonna be able to run something like that on it. So I don't know why people do these crazy grids. You don't need it. Do a 3 by 3 or a 5 by 5 at most. If somebody told you to do a 15 by 15, they have no idea what they're talking about, and they're literally wasting your time. There's no reason to do something that detailed that you're not going to get better results versus doing a lower one, because what happens is, as the printer takes readings, it's going to interpolate between the points, and it gets pretty damn close. If your bed is that messed up that you need a 15 by 15 grid, then you should just get a new bed. All right, so we're coming up. We try to keep these on an hour, but yeah, Fenrix, the LCDs will be restocked very soon. We just got them in, so like literally just now. Oh yeah, I was gonna make a note here. I have to make myself a task. So hang on. Tim's tasks. Development/web list. Meanwhile, PSU cover on site. STL. All right. If I don't write it down, it might as well not exist for me. All right. Nathan says, I recently upgraded to EasyBoard 2.0. I was wondering about making a powered by T3D decals, like the Intel ones, like the little Intel, like Intel inside or powered. I mean, if you, I don't know if you have a company that does that, that'd be kind of cool to get made. I would definitely put those on the site and throw them in with easy boards. That's pretty cool. I'm not a very big artistic person. I'm very much mechanical and electrical. In terms of design stuff, I'm not that great. I'll just be honest. Let's see. Would love to see one for the Ender 6 at some point. It's silly, but I don't get a printer I can't run easy board in. I mean, I get it. I'm probably going to end up having to switch the board out on mine, so I'm not going to get to it before the end of the year just because of the holiday stuff. Like, the holidays are fun and everything, but, like, I'm not a huge fan of them because it completely derails all my plans. Like, I can't really dig into anything because of everything going on. But my Ender 6 stock board is finally going out. The Z motor keeps shutting off, so... Yay, reality quality. But hey, I got like, what, a year out of it, if not more. So, but yeah, we'll do a video on it. But it's the problem with that printer is because of the design choices and how they wired everything. It's not a super easy drop-in replacement. I'm probably being a little more cautious than I need to be, but I'd rather do that because, if we tell people to like, oh yeah, it's compatible, and then they realize like they're gonna have to change some wires out or change connectors out, then most people are not happy and they just want to return the product. So, Dan Frost asking about the Sonic Pad again. Where's the best place for tutorials? I'm not sure, but it runs Clippers, so start with the Clipper community. It's really sad that Creality is still not supporting their products. Yeah, and also the Sonic Pad, you should not be buying the Sonic Pad personally. You should return it because unless you don't care that they're literally stealing software from the community, because they are. That Sonic Pad is a product that is violating the GPL license, meaning they stole code from the community, even to the point where they strip all the copyright to try to cover it up and make it look like it's theirs. So nobody should be buying the Sonic Pad, in my opinion, because it is, one, a product that they're not supporting, and two, it's a product that is stealing code from the community. So by you guys giving money to them, you're saying, I'm okay with you guys stealing code. So, all right, let me see. I got time for like one or two more questions. All right, let's see. Jenny Smith is asking about if it's worth going to a 0.6 nozzle, because that's the latest craze. People are making videos about 0.6 nozzles. Yeah, that's the latest bandwagon that people are jumping on. Me personally, I don't think you should have your main printer have a 0.6 nozzle. I have multiple printers with 0.6 nozzles, but there's things that you can you can't print with a 0.6 that you can print with a 0.4, and you do lose small detail. Um, yeah, so give it a try. If you're printing a lot of stuff that doesn't have small detail in it, the 0.6 does get prints done faster. It does make prints that are stronger. But I still think for an overall best all-arounder nozzle, I still think the 0.4 is a good size. So, but yeah, if you can get it, just try it out for you. Some people don't like the 0.6. I have printers that literally I have 3 enclosed printers in my office. One of them has a 0.6, and I have 4 non-enclosed ones. 2 of them have 0.4s. One is a 0.6, one is a 0.8. And there's just some stuff that just doesn't print well on a 0.6. It's usually stuff with tiny little details on it. So play with it. Most people, you probably could go to a 0.6, but like it's definitely a like fad right now. If like would be the right word. Peter, why are you asking if I'm dodging you? The Mosfets. Wow, now you're saying I have a couple-year-old one. Now they're obsolete. They're not obsolete. We're just switching versions because we can't get the other ones made. If I could keep getting the other ones made, we wouldn't be switching them because they work great. Like I don't think we've had any defectives on them in years. So, but these are coming. These are actually using the same brand of MOSFETs that we use on our Easy Board, which why I was like, okay, this is a nicely designed product. I think when I looked it up, it was like a 200 amp something MOSFET at 125C. It was something absolutely overkill, and I like that because let's say you're only pushing 20, 30 amps or a MOSFET that's rated for 200, it's going to run cooler, which means it should last longer. You're putting less stress on it. Everson Aston is $399 or $384.99, a good deal for Ender 7. It's all right. I probably wouldn't buy another one unless I got it for under $300. They were clearancing those out for $250. So, and from as far as I know, they're not making them anymore. So whatever's out there is old stock. Do I think it's a decent printer? Under $300? Yes. Not at $700, which was their original one. All right. Let's see. I'll add. There's a couple quick questions here. Tour the print farm. I would, but I don't have a camera that I can pick up and move and show you guys, unfortunately. And plus, it's kind of messy in here. So there's a whole nother room. This room's about 650 square feet. So I'm just at the computer here that I use. Let's see. Have you heard about the Flipper Zero? Yeah, that's that little hacking tool. I want one. I just don't know where to get one. They're hard to find. I would love to play with them. Those are cool. My buddy Tyler has one. I gotta ask him if he's actually done anything interesting with it. And we'll do the last question here. So he says, Jedson says, his Ender 2 Pro metal extruder is chewing filament. Every time there's a lot of retraction, I can bet it will break. I already loosened the screw holding the spring all the way. Any tips? So if it's every time there's a retraction, you're retracting too much. So basically what's happening is it's chewing the filament because it can't feed it back in. You're retracting too much, so the filament's going too far back in the nozzle. It's hardening and sticking to the inside of your hot end. If you have a metal hot end, an all metal hot end, you definitely have to drop your retractions. And there's an article in our help center, which is the support.th3dstudio.com site. If you type in using your all metal hot end or using all metal hot end, there's a very good article I wrote up about all my experience with using all metal hot ends, tips and tricks I've learned to help them go smoother. So, but we are coming up on the hour mark here. We try to keep these at 1 hour. I appreciate everybody that stopped by. I hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas because I won't see you guys until after Christmas. So we will be closed on Monday the 26th. We're given, since Christmas falls on a holiday, we are giving people off on Monday so they can have a little extra time with their families. So we'll be back on the 22nd or 27th. We are open tomorrow and Friday, but we are expecting very bad snowstorms, so we might be delayed. USPS already told us if it's bad enough, they're not going to have pickups. But if the post office is open, I will just take my truck and drive them over to the post office ourselves. So, but just trying to communicate with everybody. So that's it. I hope you guys learned everything. We do these every day, or every day, dear God, not every day, every week on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Central Time. If you guys want to get an email 30 minutes before we go live, whenever we do a live stream, or if you want to get notified whenever we post a video, there's a link at the bottom of our website called it says Get YouTube Notifications. There's also a link in the video description of all our videos, and we will send you an email, and that's all we use that list for, is sending you out stuff if we're going to go live or if we post videos, because we all know YouTube notifications suck. They really suck. They suck more than Simplify 3D V5. So, anyways... appreciate everybody stop by again. Hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. But I'll see you guys before the end of the New Year. So our next stream will be on the 28th. We'll be closed on the 26th. I hope you guys learned something. And as always, happy printing. I will see you guys on the next one.